All right, everybody, back with another one. Today we're going to be looking at another hell testimony from a woman who says she was a dancer until Jesus showed her hell. So let's jump right into that.
Telling us a bit about yourself, who you are.
My name's Amelia Russell. I'm 33 years old. Used to work disability. Now I work from home, which is actually a blessing. So I get to play with my dogs all day. So that's pretty sweet. So I was born in Adelaide. Yeah, I used to live a very, very sinful life. I was a stripper and a drug addict. Obviously, I wouldn't strip where I lived, so I'd be flying in and out to Canberra and to Sydney, and I was living in two places at once. And my housemate in Sydney, I was like a drug dealer. I had, unlimited free drugs. I was doing cocaine and pretty much anything I wanted every single day. Completely absolute drug addict. Like I was a criminal, all my friends were criminals. Like it was really, really bad, a lot worse than what, people would think.
What was it like for you growing up? Did you grow up with Jesus in your life? Did you go to church or anything like that? Or how did you grow up? What was your family life like, your friends, school?
Yeah, I grew up. My dad was a Christian and he used to take me to church. I just kind of went. I don't really think I really knew, I just kind of went and just followed what they did. But then when I, got older and moved out of home, I thought it was just a bunch of fairy tales, and I kind of became an atheist and fully started just rejecting God. Growing up at school, didn't really have many friends, got picked on a lot. I was that kid that got bullied. It's a bit of a tomboy. Just spent most of my days just riding my bike. And I'm glad I didn't grow up in this generation. Otherwise, they would have convinced me to have a sex change or something. The world's going crazy.
Did you have any spiritual experiences when you were young through school? Were you into New Age or anything like that?
No. When I was at school, I was a Christian. Well, sort of, I think just, because my family was. I was all right at school. My dad did all right, got good grades. I did have a car accident though, around the beginning of year 12. So I missed out on most of the school year because I broke both of my legs and I was in a wheelchair. I was driving a van and there's no front to a van, and I was stopped at a traffic light and had a guy hit me front on. So the whole van went crushed both of my legs at the same time. Yeah, I nearly died. From that, but by the grace of God, didn't.
I guess in your early life, maybe teenage years, what was your family like? Was there any trauma, any difficult times that you're going through at this age, or was life pretty easy at the time?
Oh, my dad and mum, divorced and stuff. My mum ended up dating a transvestite pretty much my whole childhood. His name was Jody. It was a 6-foot tall man in a dress. So I kind of grew up around all that. But yeah, and then I think it just got further and further and further away from God the older I got. But yeah, a little bit of a weird childhood, I would say. But then again, I guess it's not weird now. Back then it was weird. Now everyone's parading it. My partner when I was at school was 26 and I was 17, so that was probably not too good. Just had partners growing up. When I got into stripping, it got really, really bad. I was just kind of using guys as toys.
At what age when you started stripping? How'd you get into it?
I used to manage the Crazy Horse and the Firm in Adelaide, two of the biggest strip clubs in Adelaide. So yeah, when you're managing those clubs and you're working, 6 days a week, 13-hour shifts and taking home an income that's less than what these girls take home in one day, it was kind of yeah, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna give this a try. So then I did. I left Adelaide, flew to Canberra where I figured no one would know me, and started stripping so I could make big money.
Is there a particular night that you can remember where something happened, or walk us through a typical night, a big night for you?
Oh well, see, the clubs I was working in King's Cross, they were just rotten clubs. The owners of the clubs knew that you were selling drugs. I would sell drugs in the club. It would be I'd say to someone,
Yeah, I say this often on a lot of these, but it's pretty telling when you hear enough people's stories in life, and there's always patterns that can be recognized. Um, there's always parallels between things in life. And one of them is children that have bad upbringings almost always end up being adults with a lot of issues. Either they have trauma or they make bad life decisions. Whatever it is, it always leads them down a path of destruction in some way in their life. It's sad but true. One of the old adages is um, when you see a stripper or somebody who's a prostitute, um, or just a girl who is promiscuous with men, um, the adage is that she has daddy issues. And that's so true. Every time you see these stories, either the father is absent from the child's life, or he was a bad dad. He was abusive. He whatever. He just wasn't a good man, and it almost always screws up the kids. Um, I don't know if I've come across a story of someone who had a bad father and they didn't have a rough childhood or a horrible adulthood. It's just so, like, at this point, it should be common sense to people. If you don't want your children to become screwed up in life and you're a father, you have to remain in your child's life and you have to be a good example for them. Don't be abusive. Um, don't be a drug addict. Don't be an alcoholic. Don't abuse anything, them, their mother, or any substances or anything in your life. You have to live um, a good life in order to be an example to your children so that they grow up right. When I saw the title of this video, it said she was a dancer. I didn't even think that she was a stripper. I just thought that she was a dancer. I didn't even, put two and two together. But it makes sense now, right? She's telling this story about how, and apparently she's going to get to the part where she says that um, Jesus shows her hell because that's where she was headed. But I just thought, this was a dancer and a person who, maybe had a rough life, and um, for some reason, Jesus allowed her to see hell. It makes more sense now. She was a stripper and made bad life decisions because her dad was out of the picture and her mom was with what she calls a transvestite. So it's very telling. It's very telling, and it's very sad because it's like the same story over and over again, where the parents mess up the kids, and the kids end up growing up to be adults and, unfortunately, bad members of society. People really don't realize parenting is like the most important job you could have in life. It's the biggest responsibility. You are tasked with bringing up the next generation of mankind. And the responsibility that bears is huge. It's bigger than anything, right? Because you're responsible for an entire generation of people that are going to do everything on the earth. They're going to build, they're going to grow, they're going to, continue to multiply. They're going to do everything, running the day-to-day operations of the life that we live now, but for the future generation. They're going to do everything. They're going to be your cops. They're going to be your firemen. They're going to be your doctors, your lawyers. They're going to be your politicians. They're going to be everyone in society in the future. So parenting is the most important thing you could do. You're going to bring up the next generation, and the type of person that you help them become is going to be who they are in this world, and the impact that they have on this world comes down to whether or not the parents of the generation raising those children are raising them correctly and are good examples themselves. If they are, the future looks bright. There's going to be so many people that are going to just really do a lot of positive things in this world. They're going to, look at the world today. Look how screwed up it is. It all comes down to the parents. Now, obviously, once you're an adult and you leave the home, you're responsible for yourself. That's why if you get into trouble with the law, Your parents don't go to jail. You do. But the upbringing is everything. It's the foundation, right? It would be like if you built a house, but instead of a concrete foundation, like the Bible says, you made it out of a sandcastle, right? You just put water and sand and it firmed up for a moment, so it seemed like it was stable. And then you built the house on it. And as you're adding weight with each layer of the home, the sand foundation begins to crumble until the whole house collapses. Same concept, right? You have to build your house on a strong foundation, meaning from the Bible's context, your faith. But with parenting, that foundation is everything you give to your children. And I don't mean materially. I mean everything you give to your children, the life lessons, leading by example, showing them, not just telling them, um, the knowledge that you impart on them, the education that you give them, the nutrition that you give their diet for their physical bodies, everything that you do when they're children will literally be a catalyst for the rest of their life. Those short 20 years will carry the other 80. Hypothetically, if they live to 100, will carry the other 80 years. Those 20 years will literally make or break them. And it's so crucial. It's so important. Parents don't realize how big of a job they have. A lot of parents they wing it. They think, oh, well, this is like no big deal. It's not like, my job or, something else important. No, this is the most important thing you could ever do in your life. How you raise your children means everything. Every decision you make, everything you do with them should be intentional. Because you're literally going to determine the fate of their future. And it all rests on your shoulders as a parent to get it right within those first 20 years of their life. So, yeah, it's interesting that all of these stories parallel to almost the same exact conclusion. It all starts with the parents raising their children the right way. Otherwise, the children become screwed up and they end up going down all these paths in life. How many times have we seen these videos where the person had an experience with, hell or heaven or whatever, and the death that got them there was due to their own actions of either being a drug addict and overdosing or, being drunk and get into a car accident and dying or whatever caused them to get to that point of death. Not all the time. Sometimes the people who go to heaven have those experiences. They're just, happen to have a heart attack or something, totally natural, because God wanted to show them something and he needed a way to bring them to the other side. But a lot of times with these hell experiences, especially when they die, it's always some horrific thing due to the actions that they chose in life because their parents put them on that path. So parents, everything you do with your children should be a calculated, intentional decision. How much, what you feed them, what you do with their daily activities, how much TV you let them watch, how many books do you make them read, how much do you impart knowledge in their life and also wisdom, how much do you impart your faith, your values, do you read your doctrines with them, meaning if you're a Christian, the Bible, or if you're part of another religion, that religion's, book, how much, do you spend time with them? Do you, show affection to them? All these things will literally be the building blocks of their life. It's so crucial. It's so important what you do as a parent on the day to day. And then you're not going to get it right every single time. You're going to make mistakes along the way, especially if you're a first time parent, because you are learning. And that's why a lot of times, they say the first kid is a test kid. It shouldn't be that way, but, when you don't know something, you don't know until you learn it. So, typically, if you're getting better as a parent, each child will be a better and better example of how you raise them. A lot of times that's not what happens. The first child usually ends up being the one with the most trauma because they were like the test child. And then the middle child comes and, granted, if you have multiple children, the middle child comes and they feel neglected because you give the first child a lot of attention. or vice versa. The first child feels neglected because the middle child's getting a lot of attention now. They're the baby. And then the next child's born and they're the baby. And the first child's the most important because they're the firstborn. They were the original. The second child's in the middle. They're kind of like there, but, passed over. That's why they have like middle child syndrome or something, where like middle children tend to be the craziest. They tend to go out and do wild things in the world because they maybe feel like they were neglected. And then the third child's always the baby, always the one that's the most coddled and tends to live home the longest and, tends to be the most sensitive. It's a very common pattern with people with multiple children, that's sort of the dynamic. But that shouldn't be the case if you're getting better with your parenting. If you're getting better with your parenting, each child should be a better example than the previous, because you're learning and you're growing and you're being intentional with everything that you do with each child. So yeah, parenting is just really important. I wish to stress that to more people, that we should all really take it seriously as the most important thing that we do. And our intentions, everything we do should be intentional with how we raise our children so that we could have a better world. So let's continue to see what you have to say.
It's upstairs. Him upstairs, just rat cocaine, bag after bag after bag, just keeping them up there until the sun came up. Because these clubs, they either turned the cameras off or had areas in the rooms that were just not covered intentionally, so we could get them up there and just absolutely rort them with drugs, get them off their heads, so you just clear out their bank accounts, kind of thing. It was wrong. It was really, really wrong. When you work in that environment and you see the most putrid men, like, it just puts a bad name on men. And it got to the point where I just despised men. Like, I just be like, I'll just look at someone and it's like, what a putrid, like, disgusting man. Like, I'm going to rip him for everything he's got. Because you see the worst of people. You don't see the best of people in those places. And it just kind of makes you loathe and detest those people. So you kind of take pleasure.
That's another great point too. Her father wasn't in the picture. This other person was, pretending to fill that role. The person that was with her mother, was giving her a bad example of what a man is, but that was all she had to go by. And then she goes into this stripper life and she's surrounded by a bunch of men that are perverted, desperate, and the lower levels of society, frequent those places, strip clubs and things like that. So the only examples that she had to go by with men were bad examples. But in her mind, that's who she believes a man is. So she's, I guess, at this point, she's basically saying she's never really had a good example of a man, but she's going by bad examples. So that's all she knows. That's why it's so important for men to be good and strong and holy and, follow biblical principles, be Christ-like, because we need to lead by example. And women look to men to lead. If we're, we have bad habits or we're being degenerates or, we're just not doing godly things, women will see us as, horrible people. This is why you have so many people today in the world, especially on the left, in terms of politics, with liberals or Democrats. There seems to be a lot more women that are feminist minded, that are single, that are just very angry at men, and I would bet that most of them have bad examples of men in their life. That's all they have to go by. So they hate men. And that's not good. They need strong men in their lives, but apparently there aren't enough strong men out there. There aren't enough good, wholesome men out there. So for women, I would say turn to the people outside of your life. If you don't have anybody in your life that is a strong man to be an example for you, go to your churches and speak to your pastor, or look for people inside the church that seem like they're genuinely into their beliefs. Look for resources, look for men that are actually good examples of what it means to be a man. And, hopefully through that, you can find someone to help you lead a better life. So let's continue.
Which is bad. Your mindset in there, like a lot of the girls in strip clubs are lesbians because they see the worst of men. A lot of them have the same mentality. I can't speak for all of them, but a lot of them do have that mentality where all you get is these just putrid men that just want to abuse you. So then you just want to abuse them, and it's just this cycle of just. It's just not a healthy environment, not a good environment at all.
So I imagine you're getting paid quite a lot of money every week. What would you do with that money? Was that something that kept you going?
Could blow it. I could make 3-4 grand in one night and then blow it, and just on stupid stuff. Just absolutely, you just find that you just end up just blowing your money on just stupid stuff all the time. Like I collected Tag Heuer watches. I would spend, 5-6 grand on a watch, $1,000 on a handbag or a jacket or.
There's another interesting thing too. A lot of times you see women, and again, another old adage is, the stripper's just going to, be a stripper to pay for college. And that's never the case, right? You never see people get into this life and they do this horrific thing and make a lot of money doing it and then end up putting that money to good use. It's very rare. I mean, maybe every once in a while you do have somebody who legitimately does that for a living to earn enough money quickly to be able to go to college and get out of that life because they didn't have any other avenues that were presented to them in life. They didn't have another, path, or at least that's how they felt. It was the only way out of their current situation. But a lot of times, you see women think the grass is greener on the other side with this. Oh, I need to just make a lot of money right now. Well, then they do something like this and they never take the money and invest it. They never start their own business or, invest it in something that compounds and pays them back over time. They almost always blow the money and they live that life. It's a culture. It's not just, you're not just taking a job and making a lot of money. When you're in that life, you're kind of part of that world and you have to kind of keep up appearances, right? Keep up with the Joneses. And so there's never an easy way to get rich, right? There's no get rich quick scheme. Everybody has to work for their money in life. And if you don't, likely you will eventually have a point in time where it all comes crumbling down. But if you actually earn your way and do it the right way, whatever that may be, however you contribute to society, it's different for everybody. But if you actually do find that way and do it the right way, it will pay off in the end. But if you try to get there quickly and degrade yourself and just do whatever you have to do to get the prize, it will almost ultimately backfire on you. So that way of life is never a good option for anybody. There's always another way to make money. So just look for what your talents and skills are legitimately and pursue that.
Or just stuff that I gave it all away. I ended up giving it all away. You just cars, nothing permanent. You just end up blowing it. Blew a lot of it on holidays.
And what was your close circle at the time? Did you have other friends who didn't know what you were doing? What about your family? Did they know?
No, my family didn't know. I didn't tell my friends in Adelaide. I kept my personal life and my work life very separate. That's why I flew away from Adelaide to work, to make sure that no one I grew up with ever, bumped into me.
So how were you at the moment? What was your mental state at the time? Were you doing anything spiritual at the time either, or did you connect with anything?
No, I just blocked it out. I believed in evolution and aliens. I didn't believe there was a God. I used to believe we got reincarnated, come back as another person. I never looked at any YouTube back then. I just worked, partied, slept, maybe watched a movie here and there. I did not look into, anyway. As I'm lying, getting my ass cheek tattooed, this tattoo is a mockery to God, practically ha ha ha, God doesn't exist. Suddenly my whole body gets paralyzed, total and complete body paralysis on the tattoo table. Can't move, can't talk, can't even blink. And then next minute it's God threw me into the hell that was prepared for me when I died. God showed me where I would go unless I changed my ways and gave my life to him. And like there was no concept of time in the place that I was. It's hard to explain because we're living in time, but I'm telling you right now, there was no time in the place that I was. Time did not exist. I was awake when this happened. It's not like, oh, people are like, oh, you're imagining it, or like, no. It's like, imagine you're just standing there and next minute you get like transported to Mars. Like I got taken to another dimension. Like I was physically there. And I can't tell you what your hell would be like. Everyone's hell's different. This hell was perfectly choreographed around my life to torment me until the great white throne of judgment. And then eventually, like, my body got released from hell and I sat up from the tattoo table and I'm freaking out. Like, I'm absolutely freaking out. I'm trying to comprehend what just happened. But your mind, your physical mind cannot comprehend the horrors that you see down there. Like in the spiritual, it's like trying to fit a swimming pool of water into like a thimble. Like you just cannot comprehend it. It just can't fit in there. That much information just like can't fit in your fleshly form. So anyway, I sit up from the tattoo table and everyone in the tattoo parlor, everyone stopped what they're doing. They've surrounded my tattoo table and they've called me an ambulance to rush me to hospital. They think that I'm having a seizure or something, but I just say to everyone, just take me out the back. I want to separate myself from all these onlookers that are like, watching me and looking at me. So they take me out the back of the tattoo parlor, the owner of the tattoo shop. He brings out this office chair for me to sit in. So I sit in this office chair and I got my head in my hands and I'm freaking out. Like I'm trying to comprehend what just happened, but you can't comprehend it. And then suddenly, as I'm sitting there, my whole body gets paralyzed a second time. Like can't move, can't talk, can't even blink. And then this little voice in my head was like, kind of like mocking me in a way, like, atheist, huh? You think you know it all? I'm going to show you. Then next minute, my whole body, like from the chest, gets like whooshed forward and I go speeding through a tunnel. Like I'm speeding so fast that starlight is becoming literal lines shooting past my face. And I'm heading towards this light at the end of the tunnel. And suddenly I break out of the tunnel and I'm just hovering in this brilliant, bright white light. Like, I mean, the brilliance of this light was so bright. Like if you're in your fleshly form, you'd be dust. That's how bright this light was. But for some reason, I could look upon this light and not be blinded. Now, there was no floor, no wall, no ceiling. I'm just hovering in light. And then overwhelming comes over me with this feeling of just peace and love and like everything's going to be okay. Like I just came out of hell and now it's suddenly I got this hand on me saying, it's okay, I've got you. And then faster than I saw nothing but light, all I saw was light, my whole body gets sucked backwards through this tunnel. Now I'm speeding as fast backwards as what I was speeding forwards. And then suddenly like my body gets plonked back in the tattoo parlor. And I'm back in the tattoo parlor with the memory of my hell. Now, over the next few weeks, I'm trying to tell all my friends, like, guys, like, please believe me. Like, God showed me hell. Like, God showed me hell. Please believe me. All my friends are calling me crazy. They're all like, you're brainwashed. Go seek mental help. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. I know where I was. That is something that can never be taken away from me. So after I realized God's real, we're living in the end days, is coming, like I realized, all my friends rejected me. There's no reason for me to be in Adelaide anymore. So I decided to move up to Queensland. I have family up here and I wanted to be closer to them. So I jump in my car and I do a road trip down to Adelaide. And as I'm driving my car, I'm talking to God on this like really long road trip. And I'm talking to God, I'm like, God, all my friends are calling me crazy. All my friends are calling me brainwashed. And I'm like, God, if you don't prove yourself to me right now, I'm going to believe I'm insane. I'm going to believe I'm crazy. I'm going to believe what everyone's saying about me. And I start screaming at the top of my lungs. Like, I mean, screaming like, prove yourself, God, or I'm going to think I'm crazy. And I'm screaming and I'm screaming and I'm screaming like I'm relentlessly just screaming to God. Prove yourself, God, or I'm insane. Like I'm screaming so much and so loud, I'm almost losing my voice. That's how much I'm screaming to him. So I just keep screaming at him and screaming at him and screaming at him to prove himself. And then suddenly he does. Now, what happens next and the way it happened Like, this cannot happen unless it's God himself doing it. The radio in my car just changed itself, and it blast. I mean, it blast. Like, imagine getting your radio and going up to like the loudest it goes and then timesing it by like 10, you know, like the loudest you've ever heard. So God just God absolutely blast messages through song. Now these messages like fit my life. They tell me I'm saved. They tell me I'm on the right path. And meanwhile these messages are playing, I'll ask God a rhetorical question in my mind. Like, you know, rhetorical, like deep down, you know the answer to that question. Like, are drugs bad? Like, don't be dumb. Don't be dumb. Like, you answer that question. God wants you to answer that question. So the moment the question was asked, God would pause the radio, complete blasting music to absolute radio silence. And God would wait very patiently, I might add, for me to answer the question out loud with the answer that he wanted to hear. Now, it didn't matter how long or how short it took me to answer that question, whether it took 5 seconds or 5 minutes, it didn't matter. The split second that answer had finished exiting out of my lips, bow, God would blast the radio with another message through song, and then another question, and pause, blasting music to total radio silence. Once again, waiting very patiently for me to answer the question out loud with the answer that he wanted to hear. And it didn't matter how long or how short it took me to answer, literally the split second that answer had finished exiting out of my lips, bow, God would blast the radio with another message through song, and then another question, and pause. God did this again and again and again and again and again. I'm like bawling my eyes out. I'm driving my car, like trying to keep straight on the road, just like, oh my God, you're ruined. I'm crying and I'm crying. Like, I'm literally like bawling my eyes out. Like, I'm like, my eyes are so filled with water. I'm like trying to see in front of me, and I'm crying and I'm like, thank you, God, you're real. Like, I'm just in so much shock. I can't believe what just happened, but it happened. And I'm just like thanking God. I'm like, thank you, God, you're real. And then it's like suddenly the radio in my car, it just changed itself again. I've never heard the bass in my car so loud. God comes through the radio and he tells me that it's God himself doing it. Now, he hasn't just done this once. He's done this several times. Like he did it late night in the gym one time. He did it in the shopping center before. He's done it in the hospital once. Several times in my car, even to the point where he'll put on a snippet of a piece of song and then change the radio, and then put on a snippet of another piece of a different song and then change the radio, and then put on a snippet of another piece of a different song, and then using snippets from different bits of songs that have been mashed together, he makes a message like Bumblebee from Transformers, like completely supernatural. So when like anyone ever says to me like, oh, how do you know God's real? It's like, I know God's real. Like, it's not even a question for me. Like, I 100% know God's real. I was even sitting in my lounge room one day, just chilling out, just watching TV, when suddenly out of nowhere, it's like, my whole peripheral vision just goes, and then it just zooms in, and it's Jesus on the cross, and the entire world is his footstool. So I know God's real. I know Jesus is God, and you know, he's been coming to me again and again. And
so it's interesting because it's hard to tell with like there's a couple different things going on here. Number one, she tells her health testimony. I don't know if they just cut it out of the video, the parts where she actually talks about hell. But that is something that I think is a lot more believable, because you can correlate it with two different things. Other people's health testimonies to see if they've witnessed some of the same things, and also the Bible. There is some talk about what hell looks like and is like in the Bible, especially in Revelation. So if some of the stuff that they've seen, or at least the people giving these hell testimonies, correlates with the type of demons and the ways that these angels and demons look in heaven and hell, it's a lot easier to, believe that, especially if it correlates to another person's testimony that maybe never had an encounter with that person, never heard their testimony, but is somehow giving the same story. In court, that would even hold up as, eyewitness testimony. So it would be credible. The stuff that's harder to believe is what she's talking about with the radio and stuff like that. Not that I don't believe it, but it's harder to believe because it's isolated. It's only an incident that happened to her alone in her car, and no one else was there to witness it. That's why um, when Jesus came, he always had witnesses to all his miracles because he wanted the message to spread, but not from him telling people, from witnesses telling people. So witnesses are very important. That's why we use them in court today. They're an important, integral part of every court case. Um, so I don't know if the radio stuff is true, um, and the hell, stuff was cut out of this video, I guess. Um, but it's not really important. What's important is that she believes it. If she believes it, um, then that's all that matters because she's saying that she believes that, you know, she believes in God, she accepts Jesus, so she's basically become a Christian. And that's the whole point I guarantee that God had in plan for her, in store for her, was that she come to faith through this experience. So if it worked, it doesn't really matter if no one believes her, as long as she believes it and she believes in God, then this all worked. Her testimony, sharing it with others, is just a bonus if someone else believes it and converts as well. So yeah, it's interesting.
He wants us to know he's coming. He's coming now, and we need to get ready or we're going to get left behind. And yeah, believe me, guys, you don't want to get left behind during this tribulation. It's going to be hell on earth.
Let's talk about where your life has gone since then. So since coming to know Jesus as God, how has that changed your life, and what have you started doing to live your life for him?
I just try and live my life like the Bible, try and stick to his 10 commandments. I obviously left dancing. All my dancer friends, most of them thought I was crazy. A couple of them believed me. One of them left dancing as well. She's had her own little walk with God now. I got out of that sinful life and I just try and live my life every day now in glorifying God and just try and let as many people know as possible. I evangelize, so I walk around the streets with signs and pass out flyers, and I go to the Gold Coast in Cavill Ave on Friday nights and walk around with big signs telling people that Jesus is coming and passing out flyers. And Saturday nights I go to Fortitude Valley, right out the front of my old strip club and let them all know that Jesus is coming and just try and tell.
So that's a big telltale for me, is the aftermath of an experience like this. If somebody has a testimony or, an experience where they either go to heaven or hell or whatever, some sort of encounter with, God or the spiritual world, how they live their life after that experience is typically a telltale for me that it was real. Because um, when you're lying and you're just making up a story, you're just making it up for attention, but you're still yourself. You're still who you are. You're still living the same life you've always been living. If your life changes and gets transformed for the better, it's likely that that thing happened. And that is a huge part of the testimony as well, because it's the aftermath. It's the results of that experience that you're now walking proof to other people by how you live your life, leading a Christ-like life. You're leading by example, and others can now follow in, your same footsteps. They can now seek out God and, have a connection, a relationship with him again, without having to have that experience, just from, you going through what you went through and it transforming your life. So for me, that's always the big telltale, because um, if something transforms your life, it must be real. Why would you change all of your ways if whatever you're saying didn't happen and you're just making it up? So sometimes I see people, they'll call people out and say, you're lying, you're not telling the truth, or you're making this up for attention. And if it transforms a person's life, it's highly unlikely that they are, unless they just decided to be a better person one day. But I don't know how many people just decide to be better people without God's intervention. Another funny thing that I find is that a lot of times when these people work at strip clubs, they go back to evangelize to the people that they worked with to help them too, or, protest outside the strip club or whatever. it's funny how it's almost like God used that person in that location to help save others and bring them out of there. Um, so you never really know God's plan, but it is interesting how things go full circle.
Raptured, I'll keep doing it until the day that Jesus takes me home.
So how do people normally react, or what kind of conversations do you have with people out on the street?
Sometimes they're good, sometimes not so good. I find that the ones that need to be saved, God will bring them. It's like, I find that it's like a division going on because, God's separating the sheep from the goats. It's either getting harder to wake people up or easier to wake people up. I find that there's a lot of anger out there. Like, I'll just have people come up to me for no reason and just bash me up or hit me or kick me or like spit in my face or pour drinks over my head or just for no reason.
Is that something that happens?
Now that should be a sign for the people doing that to her, that your reaction to her faith has to show you have evil in you. Why else would you care what someone else is doing with their life, right? A Christian would never, go beat somebody up because they're not obeying, God's commands or, living a Christ-like life, because that would contradict them being a Christian, and they wouldn't be. They would be a, hypocrite. But the inverse is always apparent, except a lot of people don't believe because they don't have faith. They don't believe in God anyway, so they don't believe in the devil. That the way they're reacting is coming from a place of evil. They just think, they don't like this person, so I'm going to, hit them or try and shut them up. The only reason you would try and shut them up from speaking what they feel or believe is if you have evil in you that's making you do that, right? There's some sort of level of possession that you're going through. That's the demons are not liking what they're hearing, so they're using you to react and attack that person. But if that's not the case, it wouldn't even faze you. You would just let them talk and whatever. Like you always go big city. There's street preachers, and you just hear them in the background, and you walk past them because it doesn't affect you. If it affects you, it should tell you more about yourself than about that person that's preaching.
I think when you're in a group, people are a bit more hesitant. But, sometimes I'll have really good witnesses once you kind of explain to them what's happening in the world and connect it to what the Bible says will happen in the end days. Like, a lot of the times it's like a light switch goes on in their head and, it just all makes sense to them. Do you know what? I find the easiest way that I can convince people that God's real is I let them know, hey, like, the rulers of this world, like, you think they're bad, like, you have no idea how bad they are. And I just let them know that, this world's run by satanic elite. They're all occults. Like, they're all, all their celebrities that people worship and adore, they're all Illuminati. They all do it. And a lot of people are kind of awake and know a little bit about it. And as soon as you can connect that to say, hey, like, all the world's, kings and queens and celebrities and politicians and, like, all the people with power and influence, if they all worship Satan, isn't it pretty obvious that if the rulers of the world worship Satan, that there's a God? Because the Bible said that the rulers of the world worship Satan. The Bible says Satan's the ruler of this world, and he gives people fame, money, fortune, power, and in return they fulfill his will. They groom everyone through television and media and all their influences to groom everyone into thinking sin looks cool, to groom everyone into thinking, oh, Satan's a really good guy. Like Miley Cyrus, oh, Satan's been a better father to me than my own father. Billie Eilish, in all her videos, like her black goo, fallen goo, angel wings. My Lucifer is lonely. Or Christian Bale accepting his Academy Award, saying, I'd like to thank Satan for this. And people think they're joking. They're not joking. They actually are thanking Satan, their God.
So tell us how spiritually Jesus has changed your life, and how what's your relationship with Jesus like today?
Oh, he's my King. He's my Lord. He's my Savior. And I can't wait to leave this world. I know that sounds bad because, like, everyone's going to die during the tribulation, but I just can't wait for it to happen so I can be gone. I just want to see him. I just want to be with him and follow him around like a little puppy dog wherever he goes. I'm ready to go. That's for sure. He's my Lord.
All right. So, interesting video. apparently the actual testimony part of the hell experience got cut out, but the rest of what she had to say was pretty telling. That her life got led down that path from her upbringing, and then eventually how she got out of that through her experience, and went full circle to go back to those people at the strip club and hopefully help some of them, which she said she did. So it's you never really know God's plan. It is amazing to see how He works, and He's always working in the smallest ways on a daily basis to try and save people um, in all aspects of life. So it's really a beautiful thing, and it should go to show just how much He loves us and all of mankind. Um, but yeah, interesting. You never really know how much of these testimonies are true. But like I said, the best way to really figure out if there is any plausibility to them is to compare them to the Bible first, and to compare them to other people's testimonies that have no affiliation with them, to see if there is some correlation. And from there, you can kind of get an idea as to which ones are more likely true and which ones are probably made up just for attention. But either way, you'll never really know, and it doesn't really matter. I guess these testimonies are really just meant to inspire people, or at least pique their curiosity, that there is something bigger out there that we should explore and find out. Who is God? And how do I have a relationship with Him? How do I build that? And eventually, hopefully, become a Christian. So, yeah, that's it for this video. We'll definitely do more testimonies because I think people like them on this channel. Definitely getting a lot of, good views and reviews and things like that, comments on the, especially the hell testimonies. But I'll try and incorporate some more heaven testimonies as well, because I think there's a lot of beauty to that. And some of them really do tell such vivid stories of what they saw in heaven. So I'll try and get to a few more of those too, hopefully before the end of the year. But that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Keeps the channel growing. And put in the comment section, comment on these videos. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, and what else you would like to see in the future. All right, that's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one. All right, everybody, I just want to take a moment to promote my children's book. This is Little Boy Full of Love. That's me on the back. And this is a little sneak peek on the inside. It's a great book. It's a children's book. I actually wrote this for my son. And it's available right now on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Bookshop.org, and a lot of other online platforms. But more importantly to me, it's actually available in a lot of bookstores throughout the country. You can find out which ones are closest to you on my Instagram page. We highly recommend that you shop local, buy from a local bookstore. So if you are looking to, get a children's book for you or anybody you know, or even with the holidays coming up, it's a great time to, buy a children's book as a gift. Definitely get it from a bookstore that's local to you. But if you absolutely can't get it from one of the bookstores that are currently carrying it right now, and we're in about 15 or 16 different states across the country, so it may actually be in your state, and it could even be local to you. But if you can't get it from the physical bookstore, check out our Amazon storefront. The book's available on there right now. And like I said, with the holidays coming up, you may want to do your Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday shopping early, and you can even order it from our Amazon storefront and ship it directly to whoever you're gifting it to. But it's available on those platforms, Amazon storefront and bookstores and other websites that I mentioned. But I want to take a moment here to look at the storefront just to give you an idea of some other stuff that we have available on there. These are products that we highly recommend. They are things that we use in our daily lives, and it's all organized by category. So it's a lot easier to, shop for the holidays and specifically for things that interest you, particular categories. Available right now, many different items on our storefront. If you can see here, 61 items just in women's apparel, fall decor, because right now we're in fall, 26 items, kitchen items, baking specifically, things for around the house, children's toys, even stuff for parties. If you're trying to save money on a party and throwing your own, occasion, You can even buy some cool gadgets here to help you, put on a better party. Health and wellness items here, even stuff for Christmas. And there's the book right there. So you can get it from the storefront. You can get it from the bookstores, like I mentioned. But it's available on all these different platforms. It's really easy to find and gift to somebody. Also, I want to show you the apparel shop, and these are some clothing items that we actually produced. So if you're looking to get some cool apparel items, shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, leggings, even accessories, cell phone cases, women's makeup bags, fanny packs, coffee mugs, all different types of stuff, even some, art, all different categories here, apparel, homeware, accessories, drinks, even digital items. It's all on this store, healthybodygoodssoul.com. Anything that pertains to you or somebody that you're looking to get a gift for the holidays. A lot of great designs on here, a lot of cool designs that we actually custom created. Stainless steel water bottles, especially now with the fall and winter. A lot of cool hoodies and long sleeve shirts. This is a really cool one, I think, for women. The original Be Your Soul apparel, that one's actually really popular. People tend to like that. This one's one of my favorites. The free shirt. It's the American flag and it says free and that says not property of the United States government. That one's pretty cool. Got all different types of tank tops, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, tote bags, coffee mugs, even some items for kids, backpacks. So if you're the type that likes to, plan ahead, I would definitely recommend ordering from the Amazon storefront or the apparel shop within the next couple of weeks to get everything in time for the holidays. Use code SAVE15 on the apparel shop to save 15% off everything on the storefront. So order within the next week or two and you'll definitely have everything in time for the holidays. Definitely check out all the links to everything, the Amazon storefront, the book, and the apparel shop in my bio on all my platforms, Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. But you can also find them in all the show notes for every episode that I post and get all your orders in time for the holidays. All right, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps the channel continue to grow. And put in the comments things that you would like me to talk about and make videos on for the future. And I will definitely do my best to do that. Stay tuned for the next one.